Hi guys, in this video we will take up Unit 4 from Sectoral Issues of Indian Economy, and Unit 4 mainly focuses on the industrial performance in India since the time of independence. Okay, so when India became independent in 1947, at that time we did not have a very strong industrial base. If we talk about having a strong industrial base, we did not have a very strong industrial base when we got independent. Okay, and during the British rule, what used to happen is that the Britishers mainly used India for two purposes. So the first purpose was that India needed to supply the raw materials to Britain. So from India, raw materials were transported to Britain. And what were these raw materials? These raw materials were, for example, cotton or jute, etc. So these raw materials were transported to Britain, were supplied from India and transported to Britain. And what else was India used for? So first, supply side we have already talked about. And when Britain received these raw materials, it made some manufactured goods. Okay, so it manufactured some goods, and those manufactured goods that were produced in your British factories, they were sold in India. So India was basically forced to buy these manufactured goods that were produced in the Britain factories, right? So clearly, because India is just supplying raw materials, India never had a modern industry of its own, because all the manufactured good that India was receiving, those goods were coming directly from Britain itself, right? And if any kind of industry ever existed in India, those were only industries of textile and jute. Okay, so other important industries such as steel or machinery or other heavy engineering industries, these industries either they were existing, but either they were very small or they were completely absent, they did not exist at all. So capital goods industry was completely missing from the Indian setup. Okay, so after India got independence, the challenge was much bigger than increasing the economic growth. Of course, increasing economic growth was one of the challenge, but for that to achieve the aim of economic growth, the country has to first maintain an industrial foundation. You need to have you need to have an industrial foundation to achieve economic growth. So the first step itself became that we needed a strong industrial base even before we thought of achieving economic growth. So, at the time of independence, our prime minister was Jawaharlal Nehru, as we all know. And Jawaharlal Nehru believed on the idea that the state should actually play a leading role when it comes to industrial development. So, the state should be playing a leading role in industrial development. This was his idea when India got independence. Okay, so, following into his footsteps, we adopted a strategy of planned industrialization. Okay? We adopted a strategy of planned industrialization where the government, okay, the government would guide the industrial growth, and how it would do that, they would do it through 5-year plans. So through these 5-year plans, the government had to establish, we can say, large public sector enterprises. So the focus was to establish large public sector enterprises, large PSUs, public sector undertakings, were to be established by the government in these 5-year plans. So our approach was simple. Our approach was state led, right? Our approach was state led, which means that state would play a leading role in ensuring that industrial development takes place in India. Now we are going to talk about the phases of industrial growth in India. So the first phase, if we talk about it, the first phase lasted from 1950 to 1965. Okay? And this was the first phase, and because we got independence in 1947, this happened just, you can see, 3 years after we got independence. So the first phase started 3 years after we got independence, and the focus here was that we wanted to build a strong industrial foundation because we did not have a foundation. So we wanted to build a strong foundation of industries first. So the focus itself became to create a basic industrial structure first for the economy. So we wanted to create a basic industrial structure of the economy. This was the first goal. Now, the most important policy, if we talk about the most important policy during this period, this was the second 5-year plan. You all will remember this. This was the second 5-year plan, which was the most important policy during the first phase of industrial growth. So, the second 5-year plan came in the year 1956. This was the year of the second 5-year plan, and this was based on Mahalanobis model. You all will remember this name. So, the second 5-year plan was based on Mahalanobis model. So his name was P.C. Mahalanobis, and this man was an Indian scientist. And what did he argue? He argued that India should first build a capital goods industry. So India should start building capital goods industries. This was his argument. Because if we don't develop capital good industry, how are we going to develop machines? Because capital goods are industries that produce machines, they produce equipments. So we need to develop our capital goods industries first. This was his argument. When you have developed your capital goods industry which can produce your machines and equipments, from there on you can move to manufacture other goods. But if you don't have a capital goods industries ka base, you cannot manufacture other goods. So let me take you through a small distinction between consumer goods industry and a capital goods industry. So for example, there is a machine making factory. If there is a machine making factory, this would be an example of capital goods industry, right? This is a machine making factory. But for example, if there is a factory that produces shirts, okay, this factory produces shirts and not machines, then this is an example of consumer goods industry. So just remember, in capital goods industry we focus on machines and other kind of equipments. Because at this time we were importing all our machine from foreign countries, we were importing all our machines from foreign country, and this man argued that if we keep on importing machines, we would forever be dependent on the foreign countries. Okay, we would always have to depend on them. But if India could, manufacture its own machinery, if we can manufacture its own our own machinery, we can also become self reliant. This was his idea, that we will become self reliant, and we will also industrialize faster in the future. So we are going to industrialize faster in the future because we have our base ready already. So this was the idea of the second 5 year plan. So following this idea of the second 5 year plan, the government started focusing on industries of steel, heavy engineering, machine tools, fertilizers, chemicals, and power generations. So these were the capital goods industries that we started focusing on during the 5 year plan. These industries were also considered to be the foundation of long term industrial growth. So we had to focus not just on the current need but also on the long term industrial growth of India. So these industries just were perfect for the long term growth of India as well. Now, during this time, the public sector was given a very large role, right? Why so? Because the government, it started establishing large public sector enterprises, or PSUs. So the government started establishing large public sector enterprises in the key industries that we just talked about, right? So the examples include steel plants, power projects, mining, defense production, and heavy machineries. So these were your large PSUs, or public sector enterprises, which the government focused on a lot. Now, there were two major reasons to focus on these industries, or we can say that there were two major reasons to give the public sector such a large role to play. The first reason, if we talk about this, would be a ideological reason. So, first reason would be an ideological reason, and why so is because Nehru was influenced, we can say, by socialist ideas. So, our prime minister at that time, Jawaharlal Nehru, he was influenced by the socialist ideas, and he believed that the important industries that are there, they should remain under public ownership. So his idea was that these industries should remain under public ownership, and these industries should not be given any kind of private control. And this is what is a socialist idea. So his idea was that important industries should be under public ownership. So this was an ideological reason. The second reason, or the second major reason, we can say this is more of a practical reason, and this reason was that private Indian businessmen at that time, whatever private Indian businessmen we had, they did not have enough money. So the private Indian businessmen did not have enough money, or they were not willing enough, we can say, to invest in huge projects. So they were not even willing enough to invest in big projects, right? And whatever heavy industries we've talked about, these heavy industries required massive amount of investment. So these industries require huge amount of investment, and these industries also possess high risk. Because of the high investment that is involved, these industries also possess very high risk. And there is a very long waiting period, we can say there's a very long waiting period before you actually start to see, profits pouring in. So before profits start coming in, there is a very long waiting period in these industries. Now let's talk about the achievements of the first phase that we just discussed. So industrial growth, if we talk about it, industrial growth was good during this period, and India successfully also created a very broad industrial base that we wanted. So we were able to create a broad industrial base for us. So new industrial cities also started developing during this first phase. New industrial cities started to develop, and these cities started to emerge around the area where the public sector plants were situated. So in whichever area public sector plants were situated, these cities started to emerge in those areas. And See, three major cities that we can take for example is first is Raurkela, which is a city in Odisha. Then we have Bhilai, which is in Chhattisgarh, and then we have Durgapur, which is in West Bengal. So Raurkela, which is in Odisha, it was we can say that made or developed with the collaboration of Germany. Germany and India collaborated to form this place called Raurkela. If we talk about Bhilai, then Bhilai was a collaboration with USSR or Soviet Union at that time, and Durgapur in West Bengal was developed by British collaboration. So these cities also developed, we can say, during the first phase of industrial growth in India. Now, talking about our other achievements, so we also started to develop our engineering and technical capabilities that were lacking earlier. So we started to develop our engineering and technical capabilities during this phase. We never had this before, so this never existed before in India, right? From these points you can clearly see that we had basically started to build the foundation of the modern Indian industry that you see now during this phase of industrial growth. We have talked about all the achievements in this period, right? Now let's talk about some of the hidden problems during this phase. So the biggest hidden problem during this phase was that of license raj. Now I'm sure a lot of you have already heard this term before. So although industrialization was progressing in India, there is no doubt about it, but the system had a lot of weaknesses also hidden in it. So the government mostly controlled every industrial decision. So the government controlled all the industrial decisions that took place. It was controlled by the government, right? So under the industrial policy resolution that came in the year 1956, we also call it as IPR 1956. Under this, many industries were reserved only for the public sector. Okay, so a lot of industries were just reserved in the public sector, so private sector basically cannot invest in those industries or participate. These were just reserved for the public sector. Then private firms cannot freely enter these industries because it is reserved for the private sector, right? So if a private company, if they wanted to open a factory, or if they wanted to, we can say, expand their production or increase their capacity, any of these things, if a private company wanted to do, so they first had to obtain a government license to do so. So they had to obtain a government license first, and then they can go ahead and do any of these. They can open a factory after obtaining a license, they can expand their production after obtaining a license. So everything was based on first obtaining a license. That is why this system went ahead and was called as the license raj, because every decision was taken by the government, and the government decided if you could get this license or not. And the government was also controlling imports at that time. So you cannot import in India during this license raj, because this was also controlled by the government. And government did something which is called as import licensing. So for imports also, you need to obtain a certain license, and then you can import any kind of raw material or whatever goods you want to import. So import licensing was done by the government. The government was of the idea that they were doing all of this making sure that the growth happens based on the national planning goals. But what happened in reality is that this system created a lot of bureaucratic delays, right? This system created a lot of corruption. That is why it is called as the license raj, right? And it created a lot of delays and a lot of corruption, and it was a very inefficient system. So it became a very inefficient system. Now if you think about it, so import licensing was done, basically you can't import in your country, because the government wanted to protect our domestic industries. So if you start importing goods from other countries, let's say you are importing from US, and US goods are of better quality, or let's say you get US goods at a cheaper price, then nobody in India is going to buy goods from the Indian industries, right? So to protect these Indian industries, to protect our domestic industries, government did something which is called as import licensing. So, like we can see, the Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956, this reserved a large number of industries for the public sector, like I told you, and the licensing system also prevailed at that time. So, any private firm that wanted to start or expand production, they had to first obtain a government license, which was a very major, we can say, bureaucratic barrier. So, import licensing also made sure that what we can get from abroad is also controlled by the government only, right? So, these were the criticisms of the first phase. So as we just saw in phase one, that due to license raj and policies like import licensing, we have seen that it actually led to industrial stagnation, right? This is what we saw, that it led to industrial stagnation. Now all of this happened during mid 1960s, right? This happened during mid 1960s, and we saw that industrial growth, this actually slowed down a lot. So industrial growth slowed down a lot in the period of mid 1960s, right? This is what is called as stagnation, right? When we see that growth has fallen, or growth has stopped entirely, this is called as stagnation. So industrial stagnation, if we talk about it, it means a long term slowdown in your industrial growth. It means a long term slowdown that we see in our industrial growth, right? Now what happens in a period of stagnation is that industrial production, it grows slowly, right? We know that industrial production grows slowly, but because it grows slowly, so we are not able to generate enough jobs, because if industries are not functioning at a proper rate, how are they going to provide jobs to the people, right? So they do not, industries do not provide enough jobs to people, and the living standard of people also reduces, or we can say that it is also stagnated at some point, right? Living standard is also, we can see no growth in living standard of people also, because there is not enough job, or if people with job also, they would also see a reduction maybe in their income, on in their lifestyle, due to this industrial slowdown, right? And this because of the stagnation, industries are not able to, we can say, transform our economy for the better. So industries fail to transform the economy also. We also need to know the reasons for this industrial stagnation. Of course, we've talked about license raj and import licensing, but what were the other reasons? So the first reason that we see is agricultural stagnation, and this we have talked about in the unit where we studied agriculture, right? So agriculture stagnation is one of the major issues that we see. So agriculture stagnation actually led to a reduce in demand. So agriculture stagnation reduced demand in the economy, right? So as you know that India witnessed droughts consecutively for 2 years, that was from 1965 to 1967, and during that time the agricultural production that fell sharply. So now a lot of Indians during that time, they earned their income from farming itself. So lower agricultural output if you are having in your country, this means that it would eventually mean that people have lower income also, because production is not that much, so income of people also reduced. So when rural income decreased due to a fall in agricultural production, then people cannot buy a lot of fancy stuff because they don't have enough income, right? So people bought few manufactured goods. Earlier they could get more manufactured products, but now because they have a reduced income, they started to purchase less, or we can say few manufactured products. Clothing reduced, purchase in clothing, or people in villages, they mostly use bicycles for traveling, right? So we can see reduced purchases in that also, and all the other consumer goods, we will see that there was a fall in the demand for these goods as well. So this is indirectly going to affect your industries as well, because when demand is going to fall, then industries are also going to get impacted by this, and then industries are also going to grow very slowly during this period. So can you notice what is the problem in this particular situation? The problem is that you have built your factories. That is nice that you have built your factories. You have started to establish your capital goods industry. But the issue that lies here is that you do not have, we can say, a large mass market with strong purchasing power. So, like we saw in this example, due to the fall in agricultural production, the purchasing power of people also fell in rural in India, and because the purchasing power of these people fell, they started to demand less of these items. All of these items are produced in our industries, and that means that industries are also going to grow very slowly. So this was an issue in Indian market, that we first of we don't have a mass market, and we don't have enough people with purchasing power also. So agricultural stagnation also became one of the major reason for reduced industrial growth. Now let's talk about the second reason. So the second reason is import substitution. Import substitution means that you are producing domestically whatever was previously imported in your country. You are starting to produce all of it domestically. So your idea is to substitute your import. That is why it is called as import substitution. So you are basically, whatever you used to import, substituting that, you are basically producing it in your domestic country by your domestic industries, right? This is the meaning of import substitution. So for example, you are not importing steel. What you're doing is that you're producing steel at your home itself. Okay, now initially this strategy, it worked well. It worked well for the Indian market, but eventually what happened is that a lot of very simple imports, these also had been replaced, like, right? So not everything needs to be substituted and produced in your own countries. Some things can simply be imported, and that is not going to harm your country, right? So now if I talk about to achieve growth, because you have also started to substitute the simple imports to achieve growth, what do you need to do as a country, right? The first thing that you can do is that you can basically produce more advanced products, right? This is what you can do, that you can produce more advanced products. And the second thing that you can do for accelerating growth in your country is that you also need to export to international markets that you were not doing previously. So now you have to export to international markets the product that you are making at home. But at that time the Indian industries were not, competitive enough to succeed globally. So Indian industries were not able to succeed globally during that time. First off, you don't have enough foreign demand for your products, right? You don't have enough foreign demand for your products. And the second issue is that along with less foreign demand, you also have less domestic demand, because the income, or like I just taught you, that the purchasing power of people was less. So you also see less domestic demand along with less foreign demand. So this together created a lot of problems for the Indian industrial setup. Third problem was of license rush that we have already talked about. So firms needed, government approval for almost everything during this time. So you need government approval for everything. And because there were import restrictions also, there were restrictions on import. So if the firms wanted, for example, let's say they want better machines, right? They want better machines for efficiency. They first need to take government's approval. They can't, bring in better machines by themselves. Then if they want modern technology, for that also they need government approval. If they want, for example, high quality inputs, for that also they need government approval. So government approval was basically needed for everything. And the Indian firms, they were protected from the competition from outside. So because you are protecting your Indian firms so much from the outside competition, what will happen if you protect someone a lot? If you protect them a lot, they will basically have no incentive to improve their productivity. So they did not have any incentive to improve their productivity or efficiency, because they were protected by the government, right? So over time, what is going to happen if you protect someone? So Indian industries, they started to become technologically backward compared to the global standards. So our industries were technologically backward, or we can say technology where technologically very, far in the race as compared to the global standards, or if we take a look at the global industries of those time. Another major issue was of decline in public investment, which means that the government faced a lot of, financial difficulties, and these were caused by, first, foreign exchange shortages, second, the war of 1962 with China, and third, the war of 1965 with Pakistan. So these created a lot of financial difficulties for the government, okay? And we also know during the period of 1990s we had to undergo LPG reforms, and LPG reforms also came into the picture because the reserves that we had, we only were left with 14 days of import. So we were only left with enough reserves that would last us 14 days so that we can import from the foreign countries. So that is what foreign exchange shortage means. And due to war, we know that war creates a lot of financial difficulties for the government, okay? So this was the reason that public investment means the investment by the government. So that is why the investment was reduced, okay? So since government spending had been a, major source of the industrial demand that we saw earlier in phase 1, so lower public investment or lower investment by the government meant that you will see a decline in growth of these industries. So decline in public investment was also a very big contributing factor for the decline in industrial growth that we see. Now, what was India's focus according to the second 5 year plan? Our focus was that we will focus on heavy industries, right? Our aim was that we were focused heavily on the capital intensive industries, right? Now, these intensive industries, they use more machines and they use very less labor. So they use a lot of machines, but if we talk about labor, they use very less labor, right? So for example, all of these industries, including steel or other heavy engineering industries, they only operate with your machinery. They don't need labor as such. So these industries, they produced output, of course, but they did not create enough employment because they're not hiring people as such. All of their work is being done by the machine, so employment falls in that case, right? So industrial growth did not generate, we can say, a widespread income growth. We did not see a lot of income growth happening because people were not employed by these heavy industries. That is the reason that we did not see widespread income growth. And we did not also see a very strong consumer demand. The reason that we don't see a very strong consumer demand is that people were not earning enough money due to this industrial policy or design that we were following. People were not earning a lot of money, and that is why the consumer demand was also very low. So this was all about phase 2 that lasted from 1965 to 1980, the period of industrial stagnation. We have talked about it in detail. I'll give you the notes and then you can just read through it. I'll just mark the important factors for you. So the first was the demand side constraint, and which was caused by the agricultural stagnation. We read about this. We also talked about the second factor, which is the exhaustion of import substitution. So import substitution created a problem for us. Then we also talked about the third factor, which was the inefficiency that was caused by the license raj system or the control regime, right? The fourth factor that we talked about was decline in public investment. And then we talked about the industrial structures nature, which created very less jobs, right? So we have talked about all the criticisms for phase 2. So phase 3 lasted from 1980 to 1991, and this is a phase of recovery, but not full recovery. We see recovery happening, but this recovery is very partial, right? So Indian growth basically improved during the period of 1980s. So after stagnation, we saw an improvement in the period of 1980s, and a lot of factors contributed to this recovery, we can say. The first was that the government, it relaxed a lot of license restrictions that were earlier there. So the government relaxed a lot of license restrictions. And we saw in the last phase that there was a decline in public investment, right? So during the phase of 1980s, the government started to spend even more. So high government spending, it basically increased the demand throughout the country. So due to high government spending, demand was increased throughout the country. And we have already talked about how the green revolution had increased agricultural incomes in a few states such as Punjab and Haryana. So this was also a contributing reason. The green revolution also contributed in increasing the agricultural incomes and high rural incomes. If we talk about rural incomes, then high rural incomes also, due to the green revolution, high rural income, it also increased the demand for your manufactured goods, right? So the demand for manufactured goods started to rise. And the government, it also allowed greater imports of technology and industrial inputs. So the earlier government had put in restrictions on import, right? So now government allowed import of technology and other inputs that the firms in India they required. So all of these factors basically helped in the industrial growth to accelerate in the period of 1980s, right? But here comes the issue again. The issue this time being that because the government was spending a lot of money to stimulate demand in the economy, the government was spending a lot of money so that it can stimulate demand in the economy. But what happens when you spend a lot of money but you don't collect a lot of money from the public? You of course suffer from something called as a deficit, right? And this is called as your fiscal deficit. So you suffer from fiscal deficit because you're spending so much and not collecting a lot of money in return from the public, right? So the government saw large fiscal deficit during this particular period. So in simple terms, the government was spending so much more than it was earning, right? So the government was earning less, but it was spending a lot of money, right? So this eventually also contributed to the balance of payment crisis or the BOP crisis that we see during the period of 1990s, which led us to introduce the LPG reforms. This was also a very big factor for it, that our fiscal deficits increased a lot as compared to our earnings or our collection. So there's nothing much to talk about phase 3 now, and we will move to phase 4, which is a very important phase. So phase 4 begins from 1991 onwards, and during this phase India introduced a lot of economic reforms which shaped how economy looks right now. So these economic reforms are very important to know about, right? First key reform was that industrial licensing that we have been talking about. Industrial licensing during this phase was abolished for a lot of industries. So industrial licensing was abolished for a lot of industries, right? The second key reform is that import tariffs were reduced. So import tariffs were reduced, or what you also know as your custom duty, which means that whatever goods are entering your country, you have to pay a certain tax on it. So import tariffs were reduced so that people could import or industries could import in India as well. Then the third thing that happened is that foreign investment that earlier suffered a lot of restrictions. So foreign investment was earlier restricted. Government did not allow foreign investment. These restrictions were also relaxed. So this means that foreign companies can now, or foreign partners can now, invest in your Indian industries as well. So foreign investment was relaxed. The fourth key reform is that the PSUs that were established in phase 1, these PSUs, like I taught you, these were completely under the public ownership, right? So these industries, they had become monopolies over time. Monopolies means that they had the entire market for themselves, and they had the entire power to dominate the market. So these monopolies, they also ended, or we can say the era of these monopoly also ended during the fourth phase. So we basically in conclusion see a lot of relaxation for your private and your foreign firms. They were given a lot of relaxation, and they could now enter our industries that had previously been restricted by the government. So what are the positives that you can gather from phase 4 if we talk about the good side of phase 4? So economic growth, of course, due to all of these positives, our economic growth, this increased significantly. So we see a growth in our economy. And then during the mid 2000s, if I talk about the period of mid 2000s, our GDP also crossed 8%. Due to these economic LPG reforms, our GDP crossed 8%, which was a good standard mark for us. And investment also, we can see that private investment expanded rapidly because private players were now given a lot of freedom, and new sectors also started to emerge. So these new sectors being your sectors such as IT, your telecommunication sector, and your other financial service sector, these sectors also started to emerge. So the industrial growth that we see after 1991, this industrial growth after 1991 was concentrated, we can say, mainly in two sectors. Firstly, it was concentrated in your capital intensive sectors. We have already talked about your capital intensive sectors. And secondly, it was concentrated in your skill intensive sectors. Now, India basically did not experience, we can say, large scale growth in your labor intensive manufacturing. So India did not see a large scale growth in its labor intensive manufacturing. And this is important to understand because India has a huge labor force, right? India has a huge labor force that we know. And this labor force was moving out of agriculture at that particular time. So if one of your such an important and big sectors, which is agriculture, and if people are moving out of that sector, that means that a lot of labor is free now, right? And this labor needs to be employed in some or the other sector. But we were not focused on any industry, or we can say we were not focused on any sector that would create jobs for the labor force that was coming out of agricultures. So if we talk about countries like China or South Korea or Taiwan, so these countries are also based on in your Southeast Asia, right? And these countries have pulled out a lot of their people who were earlier in poverty, and they've shifted these people, these workers, we can say earlier their people were also working in farms, but they shifted these people from farms to factories. But India basically failed to do so because see, our growth after 1991 was just focused on either capital intensive sectors that I've already taught you that these sectors usually work with machines, they don't require labor. And the second, that we were focused on skill intensive sectors. So skill intensive sectors also do not require your labor to work for them. So what was missing? The missing key was that we did not develop any labor intensive manufacturing setup. We did not have a manufacturing setup where labor is used basically in large quantity. Now let's talk about the role of public sector after the reforms of 1991. So after liberalization, the role of public sector that gradually declined. As we can see, the role of public sector declined a lot because now we had moved towards privatization. So naturally, we see that the role of public sector declined. So as we know that industrial delicensing, it allowed your private and foreign firms to enter the sectors that were previously reserved only for the public sector, right? And we also see disinvestment by the government. Disinvestment by whom? We see disinvestment by the government in the PSUs. So government was, basically having majority of ownership in the PSUs, right? So the government disinvested in these PSUs. Disinvestment basically means that you sell majority of your stock in a particular company. So the government sold majority of its shareholding the government sold, and this is what is called as disinvestment. Okay, so we see disinvestment happening after the reform phase, and we also see privatization. So this means that government ownership reduced in a lot of enterprises, right? Now what is this FRMB Act of 2003? Let me take you through this. So FRMB, the full form of it is Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act of 2003. So like I told you already that the fiscal deficit of the government was increasing a lot to boost the demand in the economy. So this act had to come, this FRMB Act, this Responsibility and Budget Management Act had to come in 2003, and this regulated the fiscal deficit of the government. So it proposed that okay, you can only have 3% of fiscal deficit as part of your GDP. So if your GDP is, let's say, any amount, you can only have your fiscal deficit up to 3% of your GDP. So this is what the FRMB Act of 2003 was. So that is what is written here. The FRMB Act, it imposed basically your legally binding restrictions on the fiscal deficit, and that is why we see reduction in public investment by the government. So can you see here the public sector's share in your GDP? This fell from 25% in 1990-91 to 20% by 2008 2009. So we see a fall of 5% in public sector share in GDP, right? Employment by the public sector also fell by 10%, and the share that public sector had in your capital stock, that also fell from 50% to 30%. And this happened due to disinvestment that I taught you just now, because the government started to exit all the company. The share that it had in the capital stock, it also fell from 50% to 30%. The expectation was that private investment would expand to fill the space that was left by the public sector, because government has withdrawn from all the commercial activities, right? And their spending should be oriented more towards health and education, right? But what happened in reality is that, so we see that the private investment expanded during the period of 2003 2008, and public expenditure, the expenditure by the government on your social sectors such as health and education, this did not improve as such, right? So this has not improved as a proportion of GDP, right? So if you have to conclude all the four phases that you've talked about, what we can say is that in India's industrial development, it was first of all very state led, right? Initially it was state led, and we were focused on heavy goods industries. So we were focused on heavy industrialization, right? Then we saw some stagnation also happening. So after this we saw stagnation, and stagnation happened during the period of license Raj, right? Then we see some partial recovery that happened, and after that we see 1991 reforms that were fully market oriented. So this is how you can basically, summarize all of your four phases of industrial development.